Everybody, welcome to our DT sharing today.
Hi, so we're going to be covering Luke 9. I was thinking about what he says in verse 23, Luke 9:23, and how it says, deny yourself, deny himself. Everyone who comes after me must deny himself. And I was thinking about that idea because, especially in this day and age, what we've been bred to believe and what we hear all the time is that we should be true to our feelings, that we shouldn't deny our desires, that we should actually indulge our desires, and that we should be able to do whatever we want, whenever we want. And that gives us license to do whatever we feel like, and it also gives us license to live utterly selfishly. And so I think when we hear these words, deny yourself, that just sounds like anathema. It sounds like misery, and we don't want to do it. And so I think what we often feel like is that if we don't feel like doing it, there must be something wrong, and we shouldn't do it. And so we think that our feelings are right. And I think this is a big way in which Satan has really fed us lies. And I think we need to really think carefully about whether this is true or not. And I think one way in which we know that what Jesus is saying to us, that we should deny ourselves and take up the cross and follow him, and that actually leads to an abundant life. We can know actually that this is true. So most things in life actually we know are good. We don't actually feel like doing. That's just the reality, because the reality is that we're sinners and we are selfish and we're very lazy. And what we want to do is to indulge our selfishness and to indulge our laziness. And so there's hardly anything that we know is good that we feel like doing. And that's just a function of the fact that we're sinners. And so, for example, most of us don't feel like washing the dishes when there's a pile of dishes in the sink, or like cleaning the house when we know we should clean the house, or even exercising. Exercising feels kind of awful, actually, even for me. I mean, even though I run all the time, it doesn't feel good. Most things in life, we just don't feel like doing. And so what comes naturally to us is actually laziness and selfishness. So denying ourselves is actually a foreign concept. But it's just true that we know that these things are good for us.
I think that idea of giving into our emotions is very common, as Ellen was saying, and it's really a sign of our immaturity, my immaturity, when I don't feel like doing it. I think we all feel that, and it's just something that I think we also have to recognize is it changes, it grows, it gets better. And I think this self-denial is actually like a muscle that we need to keep growing and exercising in, because initially none of us wants to do it. And as I was thinking about that, I thought about just even in the Bible, there are many heroes of faith who did not want to obey God when he first called them. I thought about Moses and all the excuses he made, and then his final protestation saying, just pick somebody else, or Ezekiel or Jeremiah. There's a lot of things that we're called to that just, if left up to us, we would just not want to do. And yet we see them doing it because why? I think they begin to have that posture of self-denial, and then they realize this to become a servant. After all, Jesus is saying to follow him, and that when we say follow him, what are we following? His pattern of life, the way he lived. And ultimately through here, it is a life going to the cross, a life of servanthood. And so then I thought of positive images of that, like Mary, who says, I am the Lord's servant, be unto me as you wish. And Apostle Paul, who constantly describes himself as a servant, or using that word doulos, right? Slave, servant of all. And again, as Jesus is the one who doesn't give in to his rights, his desires, but he denies himself. And that actually gives life. And then I thought about the verse here, whoever loses his life, then we'll save it, right? We'll save it, we'll gain it. We actually gain life when we deny ourselves. It's the opposite. And right before this passage in Luke 9, Jesus sent out his disciples, and they taught and they healed, and then he fed the 5,000. And so I think in the back of their minds, they have a picture of when we follow Jesus, there is life, and we can feed people, both like literally and spiritually, and they breathe life in that way. So following, although it can feel like death and feel hard, it's a lot of it is about this muscle we need to exercise.
I think there's a lot of truths and principles that we kind of understand on a conceptual level, but we're not really gonna fully understand it until we actually obey. And for example, parenthood. I think when we think about parenthood, what stands out to us is a lot of the negatives, like I'm not gonna have free time, I won't be able to do the things that I enjoyed doing before. I have to wash bottles. I have to change diapers. So we think of it in a lot of those negative ways, and we kind of know that there must be a joy in being a parent, but so we kind of understand it conceptually, but there's really nothing like understanding the joy of parenthood until you have a child and you realize, wow, this is so amazing being a parent. You just love your child and you adore them, and it's just nothing that can prepare you for that until you actually experience it yourself. So in the same way, I think when Jesus tells us this, we will not fully be able to understand until we actually obey and begin to deny ourselves and pick up our cross and follow him. And then we will experience the life that comes from it and saving our life as we lose it.
One last point I just want to bring up from this second section here. And these are the would-be disciples, as we call them, and they say they'll follow, or Jesus calls them to follow, and they come up with several different excuses. And I thought about that in terms of what are the excuses, and it's things like the earthly comforts, their job, occupation, or even family. And these are not necessarily bad things. It can be good things, and often it's the good things that become our excuses to the greater. We miss out on the greater and just go for the good. C.S. Lewis talks about the example of a boy wanting to make mud pies while he forfeits a vacation at the sea. And just that idea that these are the three things that can be the primary hindrances to our true discipleship. And William MacDonald, many of us are reading the book True Discipleship, he talks about this as well. And these are what he calls the escape routes. And I think this is just something as we live our Christian lives, we have to be wary and aware of, that these are the things that can derail us. They can be the escape routes from the discipleship that God wants us to follow him. So it's just the reality that there are so many temptations as we live our Christian lives, and as you grow and mature, that you're going to be faced with these many decisions to leave and follow again and again, just like we saw in yesterday's DT. So just want to leave with that final point.
All right.
See you guys tomorrow.
Okay, bye.